Hello, everyone. I'm Dr. Jerry Paleo, and I'm the creator of the Burnout During Organizational Change Model, or BDOC. And since this is my area of expertise, you can imagine that I get an awful lot of questions about what causes burnout and how to recover. But one of the areas that I get questioned about a lot is I didn't even know I was burning out. I mean, I knew something was going on, but I have no idea that it was leading to burnout. And one of the things that you need to recognize is that burnout has a lot of common symptoms. I mean, you're exhausted, you're frustrated, you're cranky, you're cynical, your productivity goes down, and you have health problems that are associated with it. Now, those are common, but every person's burnout is going to be slightly different. Now, you might wonder, well, why is everybody's burnout going to be different? I mean, if I want to cure this, I need to know exactly what causes it, and there have to be certain causes for it. And once I deal with that, I can deal with all these symptoms. Well, that's true to a certain extent, but there's something else that you have to realize. There's a unique interplay between your personality and the external stressor or stressors that are contributing to your burnout. Now, when I created the burnout triumvirate, which basically says there's three areas to burnout before someone says, you know something, I think what I'm experiencing is burnout. And those three areas are personality traits, organizational factors, because I deal a lot with workplace burnout, and then finally, physical symptoms, the exhaustion, the fatigue, the gastrointestinal problems, the headache, the cold, all of those types of things. And it seems that it's only when people experience physical problems that they say, oh, something's going on. Either I'm not handling things well, or I have certain expectations that I can't meet, or something is going on in my workplace that is not conducive to my health. A lot of times it's both personality, which are those internal things, as well as what's going on in your environment or the external things. So when you think about the interplay between your personality and organizational factors, or the internal and the external, think of it this way. Someone, for example, who is an overachiever. Now, overachievers are not people who have excellence. They're people that go way above and beyond. They're the type of people who, if a margin is off by a 16th of an inch, they'll keep going back and forth with it, back and forth to make it perfect. Perfectionism is a big part of overachievement, but it's not always a part of overachievement. Overachievers feel that they've never done enough, that they may accomplish more than other people, but they're still not doing all that they can do. Now, consider what the burnout would be like if an overachiever has a very demanding boss, someone who is saying, you need to do even more. What does the overachiever do? Keep pushing, 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 even though it may lead to severe health problems, either physically or emotionally and psychologically. That's with the demanding boss. But what if you have an overachiever who has a supportive boss, someone who's saying, you know, you're pushing too hard. I'm glad that you want excellence and you're doing your best, but you're spending too much time on this stuff and you're killing yourself. You don't need to. Now, think of how that person's burnout may be different. For the overachiever who has a demanding boss, it might be this internal angst. I have to keep doing more and more and more. But for the overachiever who's got the supportive boss and who is telling them, like, you can back off a little bit, they may have a type of burnout with, I'm concerned, am I doing enough? And why am I doing this? And what's wrong with me? And all of these things come together. So the burnout will be different. Let's talk about another very common personality trait that often contributes to burnout, and that is the people pleaser. The people pleaser, the person who never says no, who can't say no for fear that they won't be liked, or fear of abandonment. People pleasers, think of everybody else before themselves. Now, I understand that it's important to care for other people as but you also have to care for yourself. I mean, think about the airplane. In an airplane, the flight attendants always say, if you're traveling with a child and the oxygen mask comes down, put it on yourself first and then put it on your child. Because if you're passed out, you can't help the baby. We don't do that in life. So a people pleaser who is in a culture that's focused on financial return on investment, it's all about the dollars. There's a cognitive dissonance there. They care about the people, but yet their culture is saying it's all about the money. So that creates a certain type of stress that can lead to burnout. But what if you're a people pleaser and your culture is focused on image? They may call it brand, but a lot of times it's the image. All of our employees come from Ivy League schools. What if you were hired because you've got the skills, but you didn't have an Ivy League degree? You're going to constantly try to be posturing in order to fit in with that particular organization. So your burnout as a people pleaser in a culture that's focused on image will manifest itself very differently than a people pleaser whose culture is focused on financial return on investment. And it'll be all very different than the type of burnout you experience if you're an overachiever with either a demanding boss or supportive boss. So you really need to understand when it comes to your burnout, what are your personality traits that are contributing to it? And with those personality traits come certain assumptions, the ways things should be. And then look around you. What's going on in your culture? What's going on with the people around you? How well do you get along with your boss? How well do you get along with your colleagues? How well do you get along with the people whom you're managing? You need to look at all of that because that is what creates the unique experience of burnout that you will have. Now, one of the things I should mention, based on my research on women and burnout, what I found is that if you're an overachiever plus a people pleaser, that is the perfect storm for burnout. And it may be regardless of your relationship with your boss or the culture or even the industry that you work in. So, understanding what the causes of your burnout are is what will help you to overcome the symptoms while you are creating an appropriate response to take care of the causes. So, one of the ways you do this is by taking time for self reflection. And this is not sitting here under a tree and chanting Om and waiting for enlightenment or nirvana. Believe me, that takes a long time. But it's the self awareness and it's radical acceptance of who you are, what you want, and what you need in order to achieve and be your best self. And one of the things that comes out of self awareness is setting boundaries. Boundaries. Oh my goodness. Those are so difficult because your boundaries reflect your priorities. One of the reasons why people have difficulty maintaining boundaries is that they really aren't a priority in their lives. So when you have clear priorities, you can set a boundary. For example, if you believe, and you're an overachiever, that work is number one, it is above everything else, then even though if you tell yourself, I'm going to stop work at 6 o'clock tonight, you're probably going to go beyond that. You're probably going to work a lot later. And the reason for that is because your priority is work rather than self-care. Or with a people pleaser, you may say, I'm going to say no. I'm not going to accept all these projects. No, 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 no. And then somebody comes up to you, and you're usually good at first where you say, nope, can't do it. But then they have a sad story, or they really need your help, or I'd be so appreciative if just this once you took care of this for me. Well, depending on what your priorities are, that will determine your boundaries. If your priorities are to spend more time with your family, for example, and you know that taking this project would require you to spend too much time away from them, if that's really your priority, then you'll be able to say no. But if your priority is to make sure people at work like you, and that's really your priority, oftentimes unspoken, but we're talking about the real gut level stuff here. In that situation, you'll probably say, okay, just this once. So when you have self awareness, you can create boundaries. I'm not going to say they're going to be easy, you're going to be challenged constantly. And if you've always said yes to things, either because you are an overachiever or a people pleaser, initially people will probably think you're kidding. And then they'll come back with another request. But you have to stand your ground. And one of the things with boundaries is to recognize that you're a human being. Now, that sounds crazy, right? We all know that. But do we really? We all have certain limitations to what we can do. We all have limitations regarding the extent of our energies, but we keep trying to push going beyond what we say we can. And one thing to remember is when you drain your energy, that leads to sleep disturbances. The exhaustion is far more than physical, it's also mental and emotional. So, if you understand this interplay between your personality and the workplace, you'll be able to understand what your causes of burnout are. And then by establishing your priorities all through self reflection, mind you, it's not a quick fix, but we'll be getting on talking about that more in another video. Once you identify your priorities, then you can set those boundaries and feel good about it because they reflect and support who you really are. So I hope this video has helped and good luck, and be sure to put some comments below this video and subscribe. Thank you.